Here we go with day 2 of the virtual Open Infrastructure Summit.
Welcome back.
Yeah, and we have already gotten things underway today, this morning, with some breakouts and some forum sessions. I was hopping through a bunch of those and checking them out. We had hundreds of people interacting in the live forum sessions this morning, which was really exciting, and even more watching the breakouts. Want to apologize again for the issues that we had yesterday. We found some things that we needed to update in the app. We pushed some fixes yesterday, did load testing yesterday afternoon, and tried to really put it through its paces, and it seems like people are having a better experience today. So thanks again for your patience, everyone, as we've undertaken our first virtual Open Infrastructure Summit.
Yeah, and once again, I'm Mark Collier, and you're, I believe, Jonathan Bryce. You may know us from yesterday. But we also want to thank our many sponsors that have been part of making this event happen for us, especially Canonical, Vexos, and Huawei, our headline sponsors. And don't forget to go check out the marketplace. If you click on the marketplace link, a little bit later after we get through the morning keynotes, so you can go in there and select the sponsors you want to talk to with all the logos and jump right into those booths. And I think there's video chat options. You can
yeah, when you go into the booth, it's I mentioned this yesterday, it's kind of patterned after the marketplaces that we have at our summit. So you can go in there and, it's opt-in for contacting sponsors just like we do at our events. So there's a button that you can click to scan your virtual badge, which will allow them to reach out to you if you have questions about their offerings or want to connect with them. And there's also a button to start a live video chat. And you can kind of think of that as if you were at the summit and you just want to walk up to the booth and chat with the people from the company, do that. Somebody mentioned that on IRC yesterday. They said, hey, it's great because you can just show up and have a friendly talk with these people.
Yeah, they're all staffed with community members.
Yeah, I was going to say, these booths, it's mostly people.
A rare opportunity to talk face to face, at least over Zoom or whatever chat is configured in there. So some of them have Zoom, others I think Blue Jeans or Hangouts, but
yep.
That video chat link is the key to get in there and have those conversations.
Yeah, and then the other key thing for interaction is the discussion chat that's next to each of the sessions. I noticed just before we went live this morning that there were some comments happening, and there appeared to be a GIF of Celine Dion. Too,
oh boy.
That must have been Allison
We're going to
Price.
have to talk. We're going to bring Allison back and talk to her about that. She's got a Celine obsession.
Yeah.
But yes, so thank you all again for coming here for day 2. As promised, I think we're going to locate the goat. I did mention there might be a goat later, so we're hoping that is going to still be making an appearance a little bit later on. You'll never guess who brought the goat. If you look at the schedule, it's going to be a big shock. But also, little trivia question for you. We're about to roll into the reminder to turn off your notifications so you can focus, and that voice, it sounded very familiar, so we're going to hear that again.
It is a familiar voice.
If you can figure out who it is, drop it in the chat, because some of you may recognize this person's voice, I don't know, but I think it's very soothing, personally. So with that, I think it's time, so let's start the show.
Welcome to the Open Infrastructure Summit. The show is about to begin. Please find your seat and get comfy. Turn your phone upside down. Silence your Slack. Join the chat and say hello. Put on your best conference clothes. The next summit starts in... Let's start the show.
Open Infrastructure.
Soy core viewer del proyecto OpenStack Manila.
I work with the OpenStack Scientific SIG, who are a great bunch of people brought together with a common purpose of using open infrastructure for scientific and research computing.
저는 오픈스택 기반의 퍼블릭 클라우드를 운영하고 있습니다.
Kompanią Centrum Innowacyjne jest organizatorem corocznych konferencji OpenInfra Days Poland i przede wszystkim centrum szkoleniowym dostarczającym szkolenia z wielu obszarów open source, Linux, OpenStack, Kubernetes.
Я ключовий рецензент проекту OpenStack Ansible та приймаю активну участь у житті інших проєктів OpenInfra.
I am OpenInfra.
没有了 OpenInfra.
我是 OpenInfra.
Jag är OpenInfra.
We are OpenInfra.
All right, welcome back to day 2 of the summit. I'm Mark Collier.
I'm Jonathan Bryce.
And we will once again be your hosts, and we are so excited after hearing all those great speakers yesterday. And we also shared the exciting news that we are becoming the Open Infrastructure Foundation. Pretty cool.
Yes, it is. It's awesome. And we talked also about how, along with that, we have some new companies that are joining. We have some new projects. And we mentioned that we had 4 new Platinum members that were approved by the board last week to join the Open Infrastructure Foundation. But I wanted to mention that it's not just about the new companies. We have a lot of companies who have invested in this community for many years and who have really kind of come back and signed up for this new leg of the mission. So I think it's really great that we've got these Platinum members, these Gold members, these Silver members who invest in this, who believe in it, and who help to build that open infrastructure that we keep hearing about.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, I mean, these are companies that really believe in the way that we all create this software together in a community-led manner. So that community-driven software development model with the 4 opens, that's really how we do things here. And these are companies that really see that vision and are backing us all the way into the next decade.
And speaking of community-led, we celebrate it as a community, even though we're kind of spread out and distributed globally. And we asked people to post selfies of kind of their toast to open infrastructure. We got some great photos, and so here we can see these, and it's great to see all these faces. I recognize Monty Taylor in there.
Of course, who could forget Monty? And of course, Hasegawa-san, so Kompai from Japan is joining us as well. So thank you to everybody who participated in that. Next year, I hope we can actually cheers in person.
Yeah, and so keep participating online in the application here within the virtual event, and on Twitter and WeChat and everywhere. It's great to have all of that communication flowing. So we had a lot of great sessions yesterday, and the thing that was awesome is they were all talking about running this open source software in production. We heard from Leaf Cloud, who has a sustainable data center model that they put together, and it relies on more than 50 different open source projects. We heard from Ant Group, who's running Kata Containers 2.0 inside of their financial services organization. We heard from Workday, who's scaled their OpenStack environment to over 400,000 cores. And we heard from MuralNet, who is using Magma, the open source packet core, to go and provide connectivity to indigenous nations. What great use cases, all depending on this open source software that we are building together. And as we get into today, we've got a lot more awesome use cases. We're going to be hearing more about Magma. Yeah. We're going to be hearing about Airship. We're going to be hearing about Starling X and the newest project that we're going to be talking about this week, which is called OpenInfra Labs. So it's going to be another really great day of content here as we head into the day 2 keynotes.
Yeah, and speaking of exciting use cases, I don't know about you all, but I love self-driving cars. That's a pretty cool technology that's really hitting the market now. And
true story.
And Volvo is one of the companies that's out there developing this. And you trust Volvo, and Volvo trusts Zool. And so let's hear from Volvo how they're using Zool for their self-driving car platform.
Hi and welcome to the Zool at Volvo Cars keynote.
How are we running Zool? Well, we have a small core team continuous integration architecture that handles the Zool backend and the infrastructure. And we support up to around 111 developers who consist of many smaller teams, and they have at least one DevOps who can add nodes, pipelines, and repositories. And whenever a new team wants to use Zool, continuous integration architecture trains one of these people to become a DevOps. So why are we using Zool? Well, one of our developers said this in a really good way, and he believes that premium cars need premium tools, and Zool is a premium tool. And it forces us to have a green master, and in that way we increase our development speed. For example, the one-pedal drive of Polestar 2 was built with Zool.
Zool version 3, why do we use that? Well, to handle development in an NVIDIA central computer, where there are many teams with different Garretts, and we have the introduction of cloud nodes, we really need Zool version 3. And here we rely on cross-project dependencies, which is a feature of Zool. And as mentioned many times before, the most important feature of Zool is the gating system. Do not merge broken code. So our longest Zool project has had a green master since April 2018, while other non-Zool teams at our company had long periods of broken master tracks and even turned off CI in periods. There are 3 other features that we really love with Zool, and one is speculative merge. And speculative merge makes the merging of new changes into master dependent on the build capacity, basically, because you test everything in parallel. You also have the prioritized queue system, and this is very important when there is a deadline and there is a long queue. At least then you start the jobs that are most prioritized and you keep the customers happy. CI job configuration together with software in the repository is an essential too. So here are some of the software components that we currently build with Zool. We have some autonomous drive components, decision manager and so forth. These are high-level AD functions. And then we have propulsion vehicle control, which actually controls the car's drivability. We have the dependability of the same functions, which is the fallback strategies. We have thermal control the cooling systems. We have vehicle state functions, which controls the accelerations and vehicle states. And we also have brake planning, because in an electric car you can brake both with the electric engine and the friction brakes. And then we have some components controlling the doors, the seats, the climate, the steering, and the central onboard diagnostic core, which actually keeps track of the state of the components of the car. And also the central core low-power CPU-based technology, and that's developed in Rust.
Yeah, and this team really likes to preach about how well-suited Rust is for automotive development, since it tries to be safe by default.
In this picture, you see 2 typical pipelines that we have running Zool, and the dots here are automatic jobs, and the capacitors or the lines are manual steps. In the middle here, on the left side, you can see a pipeline that we have when we generate the C code with a target link and Simulink. And we have a lot of link jobs here because we handle security class software. And that first box describes the check pipelines, and Garrett code review, +1, +2, leads you and starts the gate pipeline. And here we do system tests and we compile targets. And our releases are triggered by creating Git tags. And that creates change logs and so forth. And in this picture, you can see some of the tools we use in this pipeline. And we rely on, for instance, Silver and TestWeaver to create the sealed components that are not bound to the target. And you can also see some of the compilers we use in this environment.
So what does our future of Zool look like? Well, currently we're trying to look into how to handle scalability and move this to Kubernetes. Since all of our developers are located here in Gothenburg, it means that during the night when we're not really running anything, we're still paying for all our services. And we also have a need to be able to nest virtualization, and this is not really possible to do in AWS currently. And we believe we might be able to do this in Azure. And we also have developers who are using GitLab, so we need to be able to start listening to those repositories.
Thanks you for listening.
Thank you.
The next Superuser Awards nominee is Le Bon Coin, who runs Zool in production, executing 2,500 jobs per day, and each job averages less than 5 minutes.
Congratulations, Le Bon Coin. That's our first Superuser nominee of the day. We'll have a few more of those. We heard from Volvo as well. What an interesting use case they've got going on there with their autonomous driving platform. And one of the things that they talked about depending on is NVIDIA. I think that points to a trend that we're going to see a lot of in the next decade of open infrastructure, which is diversification. We're going to have diversification in the way that infrastructure is run. It's not just in big data centers. It's in manufacturing facilities. It's out on the edge. It's in microclouds. And that's all going to be new places that we need to run this software. The other thing that we're seeing is the hardware that the software runs on is very different. We have different types of networking, different types of storage. And when we start talking about things like NVIDIA, we're talking about different types of computing infrastructure. It's not just x86. We've got GPUs, we've got FPGAs, we have all of these different kinds of hardware that we have to support in our infrastructure now. So that's going to be a big trend for sure, I think.
Yeah, and I think our next speaker is going to really dive into that even further. He's going to talk about some of the really critical infrastructure that we all depend on every day and how there's so much work left to be done, actually, to support these new architectures. And this is going to be Chris Apsey, and he spoke at our Boston Summit, so it's going to be great to welcome Chris back to the stage.
Hi, my name is Chris Apsey. I'm the director of the Georgia Cyber Range at the Georgia Cyber Center in Augusta, Georgia. Today, I'm going to talk to you about operational technology and OpenStack, and why I believe that OpenStack is the perfect operational technology security research platform. The first question we have to ask is, what actually is operational technology? In a nutshell, it's planes, trains, and automobiles. So when you think about OT, I want you to think about everything that isn't IT. So it's not your computer, it's not your laptop, it's not a server, it's not your web app, it's not routers, it's not switches, it's all the other things that make life possible. Now, I mentioned I work at the Georgia Cyber Center. So in the state of Georgia, we actually have the Port of Savannah, which is the third busiest seaport in the United States, and then Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, which is the busiest airport in the world. With those in mind, it's really important to the state of Georgia to really understand what OT is and how we can make it more secure. So a core feature of OT is that it's generally not using the x86 microarchitecture. It's using, Spark, eTrax, CRIS, MIPS, PowerPC, ARM in some cases, basically everything that isn't x86. The challenge is for researchers that as we look at these systems, most of the IT in the world is focused on x86 architecture. And so emulating an OT system is really, really difficult. The only thing out there that can do it is QEMU. And QEMU can be really slow. And if you want to do it in a speedy manner, it's almost impossible. So now that we kind of know what OT is, let's talk about why we should care about it. So a little bit of psychology lesson here for you. What you're looking at right now is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what it basically means is that in order for humans to be fulfilled, they have to meet each individual need in this platform. There's 5 levels. There's a physiological level, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. The lower levels have to be satisfied before the upper levels can be satisfied, right? So you need to have your physiological needs met before your safety needs met, and so on and so forth. When we say physiological needs, we're really talking about food, water, warmth, the kind of things that humans need to physically function on a day-to-day basis. On top of that, we're talking about safety, which is, electricity, freedom from harm, place to sleep at night, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we think about kind of the dichotomy between IT and OT. OT is really focused on those bottom 2 layers, whereas IT is focused on the top 3 layers. So, your distribution chain that gets you power in your house, that's clearly OT and part of the physiological and safety layers. Whereas your email and things like Teams and Netflix and, web apps, those are all part of the upper layers. And while those are conveniences in modern life, they don't really matter too much. If you think about your email, which is kind of the upper layer level belonging section where you can talk to other people, if your email goes down, does it really matter? At the end of the day, no one's going to die probably if Office 365 goes out, but some people might actually die if the power goes out, or your heater doesn't work, or roads don't function, or there's no food in the supermarket, right? And so with that in mind, understanding that OT makes society function is critically important. On the other hand, OT is notoriously poorly defended, and so we have to take that into account. So now that we know what OT is and why it matters to us, what can we do about it, right? We know that it's very poorly secured for various reasons. So to fix this, we're going to do a couple things. One is we're going to make it easier for researchers to investigate these type of systems. By doing that, we're going to take 3 specific actions. One is improve multi-card support in OpenStack to include perambulation. When I say that, I mean you shouldn't have to have actual physical hardware of a certain architecture in order to run a workload on it. Keynotes supports pure emulation mode, so you can run a PowerPC host on a PowerPC guest on an x86 host with a performance penalty, but it can still function. OpenStack should absolutely take advantage of that functionality in order to make that more accessible to the researcher. 2, we're going to add support for other protocols to Neutron, right? So Neutron obviously focuses on just normal TCP/IP. But we wanted to be able to do things like use Modbus and SDB and all these other protocols that make OT function, because we want to be able to fully emulate these systems inside of OpenStack. Third is we're going to write Cyborg drivers. Lots of these systems have hardware components, and Cyborg is the perfect mechanism to kind of connect these hardware components to an OpenStack cloud for researchers to poke at. The second thing we're going to do is encourage manufacturers to be more open. OT manufacturers are notoriously cagey, and they're unwilling to share their IP. They're unwilling to let researchers poke at their stuff, and they just generally don't want to play along with the security community, and for generally good reason. The reality is that we need them to be more open for their systems to become more secure. And so we're going to do this via having a bug banning program, which we'll get into a little bit more about later. Thirdly, we're going to connect researchers to manufacturers, right? So assuming we can get these manufacturers to be more open, we're going to actually have security researchers look at their products in our controlled OpenStack cloud with all these extra features that I just talked about inside of it. So that way researchers can determine whether or not OT is vulnerable and fix it accordingly. What are our current efforts? We recently got a grant from the Arby Cyber Institute to make 3 specific improvements inside OpenStack, hopefully for the Wallaby cycle. One, we're going to allow Nova to schedule emulated workloads when KVM extensions aren't available for certain microarchitectures. 2, we're going to make sure that Liver correctly understands requests when guest architecture doesn't equate to host architecture. And third, we're going to make adjustments in placement to ensure that if there is KVM acceleration available, as well as unaccelerated pure emulation available, that chooses the correct one depending on what the user actually wants. Also, I mentioned this briefly, is our bug banning program. Hopefully, within about 6 months, we're going to have a formal program where manufacturers can host and provide copies of firmware, software, and hardware on our controlled OpenStack cloud, and researchers can log into that cloud and poke at this hardware to look for bugs. If they find a bug, they can sell the bug to the manufacturer, after which the manufacturer can patch that system as appropriate. In the future, something that we've really noticed is that there's a distinct lack of OT security researchers for various reasons, but really want to get after that problem. So we're going to start publishing curriculum focused on getting people into OT security research. Namely, we're going to help people with understanding how to reverse engineer ARM binaries and PPC binaries and MIPS binaries. We're going to make them understand how to reverse engineer undocumented networking protocols, all that kind of stuff that'll make people more effective in this space. Also, we're going to make more contributions to OpenStack. So those things I mentioned earlier are just kind of the beginning, what I think is a really critical period of growth for OpenStack in this particular space. We have lots more ideas. We just need more time to implement them. And finally, we're hiring. So if any of this stuff that I mentioned to you today sounds interesting to you, please send me an email. My address is right on the screen. Again, my name is Chris Apsey, Director of the Georgia Cyber Range in Augusta, Georgia, and thank you for listening.
The next Superuser Awards nominee is Stack HPC.
At Stack HPC, our focus is on open infrastructure for scientific and high-performance computing.
Stack HPC have been in business for approximately 5 years now. Like all good adventures, this one started over a few beers in a pub. Since then, we have grown substantially, assembling a fantastic team in 4 countries, and we now have customers around the globe.
Supporting the quest for scientific knowledge is what motivates us. There are 4 ways that we do that: deploying open infrastructure for research computing, developing open infrastructure technologies upstream and with the community, Developing platforms and applied scientific use cases upon open infrastructure environments, and working with the scientific community to promote OpenStack, and advocating for research computing use cases within the OpenStack community. We do what we do with the Collar, Ansible and KOB projects. Everything builds upon that.
Using Collar and KOB to deploy OpenStack keeps things simple, while providing enough flexibility to describe a broad range of problems.
We're applying these tools to create a software-defined supercomputer. OpenStack-powered machines like this will rank among the most powerful in the world. We've participated in events like OpenDev, and it's been really interesting to be able to share best practices with people from around the world.
At the same time, we are developing solutions in bioinformatics to provide researchers with secure access to sensitive data. Some of the leading research institutions around the world are now adopting OpenStack and open infrastructure.
We would like to thank not only the OpenInfra community, but all our customers and partners across the world, who without their commitment and support, this would not have been possible. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Stack HPC. It's a great group of people that I've gotten to work with, and it's awesome to see that they were nominated for the Superuser Award. We also heard from Chris Apsey, and I learned a new term, OT, operational technology. It sounds like very important stuff that our world
depends on. Let's keep it running.
Yeah, so I'm glad that he raised that as an area where we can all actually help improve the state of that technology that we depend on. And I thought it was interesting, he mentioned that he is hiring. So, if you want to go work on that and help to do that inside of open source communities, it sounds like a great opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep those planes, trains, and automobiles running on time. Also a great movie. But before we dive into my movie reviews, let's bring out our next speaker, our second headline sponsor, which is VexHost, and another amazing speaker who also, I think, has some exciting announcements. So let's bring out CEO Mohammed Nazir.
Hi everyone, my name is Mohammed Nasser. I'm the CEO at VexHost. I'm also used to be the project team lead for a couple of OpenStack projects that were specific to deploying OpenStack, such as Puppet OpenStack and OpenStack Ansible, as well as I currently sit as a member of the OpenStack technical committee. I wanted to talk a little bit about our story and experience with open infrastructure. And so we're involved in a couple of the projects that are open infrastructure projects, primarily at the moment OpenStack and Zool. We use OpenStack to deliver infrastructure as a service, both in our public cloud and for many customers in private clouds that are hosted inside their data centers or inside our data centers. We also leverage Zool extensively as a CI tool for both our infrastructure and our internal tooling, and as well as the excellent gating tool that it is. And we're also evaluating a lot of the new open infrastructure projects, such as Airship, and seeing how they fit in kind of our way of delivering infrastructure as a service for our customers. We also try our best to contribute upstream. So we actually provide upstream CI resources to the community. A lot of the tests that run for the OpenStack project and some of the other open infrastructure projects are ran inside virtual machines running on our public cloud, and so we're really happy about that. And we also provide infrastructure for OpenDev, so some of the user-facing components of the OpenDev community, such as the Gatia server and some of the other infrastructure components are running on our public cloud, and we're really happy to support that. As well as code and documentation contributions into a project such as OpenStack, and some contributions to the Zool jobs, which is really a collection of Ansible roles that are ran inside Zool to execute jobs. So I want to talk a little bit about how we were able to leverage these contributions that we do, not only to help the community, but also how we've been able to deliver kind of a nicer product for our users. So I want to share some of the new things that we've been able to accomplish, really just using a lot of the benefits that we get from open infrastructure projects. And first of all, we are launching new high-performance hardware that's being rolled out across all of our data centers. and it's already running right now in production as of today inside our Montreal region. It's powered by the new AMD EPYC Gen 2 systems and using the fastest server memory on the market, DDR4, a 3,200 megahertz memory, and with extremely high performance local storage, so you can use it for things like any machine learning cases or any cases like CI that require very high performance local storage, but not necessarily persistent fast local storage. On that note, if you also do require persistent and fast local storage, we're also rolling out NVMe-based storage across all of our regions. And that's actually in the process of happening right now. Because of the awesome power of Ceph, we're actually able to migrate all of our existing customers that are currently using SSDs and migrate them straight into high-performance NVMe drives, which means that there will be performance increases with not even a reboot of a system. The changes will just happen on their own. That's kind of one of the powerful things that we can get out of open source. So that's tremendous and should allow for awesome performance for workloads that need persistent storage. And finally, another thing that's really exciting is a lot of our customers have asked us about setting up a cloud in Europe, and I'm really excited to say that as of now we have a region open in Amsterdam, so that'll be our first region inside Europe. And the exciting thing is all this new hardware that we just talked about is all available there right now from day one. So you'll have the fastest performance systems with the fastest storage. And what I'm most excited about is we'll be running Victoria, which is the most recent release of OpenStack, from day one. So that cloud is currently in early access, and we'll talk a little bit later about how you can have access to it starting today. And what's exciting is all these hardware options and these performance improvements are all available for our customers, for our private cloud customers as well. So really, I'm really excited and proud to say that our entire stack is open source, like from the top to bottom, and from basic things to using something like NetBox as our data center infrastructure management tool, to as complex as using Ceph for distributed storage or OpenStack as our infrastructure as a service platform, to even using things like Kubernetes and Helm to deploy OpenStack and have a reliable way of rolling it out across our entire fleet. And so we feel like our investment into open source really helps the community. It helps us. Everybody really wins when we invest in open source. It also allows us to make technology more accessible. And so what I mean by that is, we're especially living in a time where a lot of companies and perhaps small businesses are being kind of surprised and into moving to the cloud because of the circumstances that we live in. And so they need to do that as quickly as possible. And a lot of times the switch to cloud can be quite expensive at times. And so because we're able to leverage open source and we want to make open source as accessible as possible, we're kind of announcing a huge and very aggressive pricing that we believe should make the cloud more accessible to more companies. Generally in comparison to the market for, pretty much the exact hardware and just as performance systems with access to a completely open API with no vendor lock-in, you're seeing almost 30% of savings on your infrastructure costs simply by using something like that's based on OpenStack, because we're able to leverage all the advantages of open source. And it's really exciting because not only are you able to save by actually going with an option like ours, but you also have the option of avoiding vendor lock-in. And so, while we'd love to serve you and build a private cloud for you, if you reach a scale where it makes sense to run your own private cloud, you can continue to do that, and you would be able to run it completely open source without having to re-engineer or enter a new ecosystem. You're already part of the OpenStack ecosystem, and you'll be able to leverage all these same APIs, whether it's in a private cloud or a public cloud. Really, to kind of end on this, I'd like to thank the entire open source community. Because of the open source efforts that all of this, it helps us make a really awesome product, and at the same time still be able to deliver, and be able to be part of the upstream community. And we feel like if it wasn't for open source, we wouldn't be able to make kind of products like this more accessible to the small businesses and the corporations that are looking to get engaged in these type of softwares. So, I'd like to close this with kind of giving a big thank you to the open source communities, and saying that's maybe a big part of what is happening, and giving the ability for small businesses to be able to use infrastructure as a service in a much more accessible manner. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Open Infrastructure Summit. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, wow, as promised, Mohammed from Vexhost delivering the big announcements. It's great to see this contribution to growing the incredible cloud footprint of public clouds running OpenStack. And he had a lot of good announcements there, talking about the new AMD EPYC 2. He's bringing that into production. And it's all powered by Victoria, which is the latest release of OpenStack that just came out a few days ago. I mean, that's pretty incredible to be able to put that online as a service within days.
Yeah, and Victoria was released last week. Mohammed is already running it at Vexhost, but we are also already working on the next release of OpenStack. And so our next speakers are going to talk about how you can join communities and participate and what that experience is like. It's really important that we are constantly seeing new contributors come in. That's the lifeblood of these open source projects. And you can join different projects, and when you contribute, that code ends up in these production environments that we've been talking about, like Vexhost and Volvo and Ant Group. And that's what's so powerful about open source. So let's hear from Kendall Nelson and Dawson Coleman.
Thanks, Jonathan and Mark. I am Kendall Nelson. I work for the Open Infrastructure Foundation.
I'm Dawson Coleman. I'm a recent graduate of North Dakota State University.
In looking forward towards the next decade of open infrastructure, you might be asking, where are these contributors going to come from? Well, the OpenStack community has started engaging with more programs and universities than ever before to collaborate with students, making them into contributors before they even graduate and start looking for jobs. When I started in OpenStack 5 years ago, not all of these programs existed. While OpenStack continues to participate in programs like the Software Freedom Conservancy's Outreachy internship that Victoria mentioned yesterday, and the Grace Hopper Conference's Open Source Day, onboarding experiences continue to improve, and there are more and more paths to enter the community. More recently, we've begun partnering with universities like Boston University and North Dakota State University, who have courses focused on real-world development, where students can get involved with open source communities like OpenStack. That's actually how Dawson got involved.
Yeah, earlier this year, I chose to work on OpenStack Octavia for my senior capstone project at NDSU. As part of that process, I was given the opportunity to work with a team of students and collaborate closely with Adam Harwell and Michael Johnson to bring new TLS configuration options to Octavia, giving operators more transparency and better control over their TLS ciphers and versions that their load balancers are using. Our team was able to contribute these features as part of the Usuri and Victoria releases. It was a great opportunity to get involved in the development of real-world software and collaborate with an open source community. This helpful community members and excellent documentation made it easy to become a first-time contributor to OpenStack.
A lot has happened in the wonderful world of OpenStack since our last Open Infrastructure Summit about a year ago. 2 software releases, the Usuri and Victoria releases. As Dawson mentioned, Usuri saw a lot of growth in new areas of technology, particularly around encryption and security. In the most recent release, Victoria, Ironic saw an over 60% increase in activity and landed changes that focused on reducing the footprint of its standalone service and supporting more systems at the edge. There was also a focus on hardware enablement, and with that came more support for ways of interacting with FPGAs, which we expect to continue to grow in the Wallaby release in April. There's always more work to be done, and we always welcome more contributors.
There are tons of ways to get involved. If your university doesn't have a program like NDSU does, there are lots of resources available to help you get started. With Adam, Michael, and Kendall's help, along with the OpenStack Contributor Guide, I was able to help work on features that are being used in production today. If you want a little more hands-on help getting started, later this week you can attend Upstream Institute, a 2-day program that will teach you the basics of the OpenStack community and how you can get involved.
We really hope to see you later this week at Upstream Institute and out in the community after that. Thank you.
The next Superuser Awards nominee is the China Mobile Network Cloud Integration Team.
Hi, OpenStack. This is Fu Qiao from Beijing. Today, I'm here to represent our China Mobile Network Cloud Integration Team. Our team are engaging in building one of the world's largest OpenStack cloud, including more than 60,000 physical nodes. In China, the network cloud supports core network service virtualization, including 5G and 4G. To improve the efficiency and quality of such large-scale multi-vendor cloud, our team develops automation tools and cross-vendor CI/CD pipeline. The team is consist of 3 sub-teams, namely the Architecture and Solution Team, CI/CD and Automation Tools Developing Team, and Deployment and Delivery Team. Open infrastructure brings benefit of agility and efficiency to telco. However, it also increases the complexity of the network. Cross-vendor integration becomes one of the biggest challenges. Since 2019, we used Auto, our self-developed integration and testing tool, to support OpenStack cloud deployment and testing on 68 resource pools across 8 regions. Auto helps reduce the integration period of network cloud by 1/3. It only takes 80 minutes for Auto to finish the hardware integration on a resource pool of more than 1,000 physical nodes. In the meantime, we also set up CI/CD pipeline to provide integration testing on multi-vendor cloud, with which we are able to continuously deploy and test vendor OpenStack for more than 17 times within 2 weeks, and each round only cost us less than 5 hours. The team has been contributing to OpenStack since 2013. So far, we have given 1 keynotes and 9 sessions in OpenStack Summit, and have served in programming committee for 6 times. We also engage in the telco and edge computing working group. In the meantime, we are also the founding members and active contributors in OpenInfra and CNTT. We are very happy to be the nominee for the Superuser of OpenStack, and we would like to continuously contribute and support OpenStack Summit. So thank you, and wish you all a happy summit.
All right, well, first of all, I want to congratulate China Mobile on the nomination for the Superuser Awards. And also, of course, I want to thank Kendall and Dawson. It's so wonderful to hear contributors talking about how to bring more contributors in. And, Dawson's story, I thought was really awesome. I mean, this is somebody, a recent graduate, comes in, lands their first code, and the next thing you know, it's shipping in places like Vexhost. I mean, that's a pretty awesome proof point that, any of us can come in, make an impact, contribute code, and it could be running in production before you know it.
Yeah, totally. Very, very inspiring. I loved it when he said that my code is running in production. We maybe should have coordinated our wardrobe, but that's okay. So talking about production, our next segment is actually about OpenInfra Labs. And OpenInfra Labs is the newest pilot project at the foundation. And it's focused on how do you take all of these open source infrastructure projects, combine them together, and run production workloads in them. It's a collaboration of multiple universities and industry organizations who are sharing everything they do in the open. And so it's really exciting to have this be a community that's forming up right now. We want to have more people join, and we're going to hear more about this from Michael Daitzman.
Hi, my name is Michael Daitzman, and I want to take a moment to thank this community. I work on a project called the Mass Open Cloud. It's a unique effort between academia, industry, nonprofits, and the government. This cloud is used indirectly by tens of thousands of users. It has hundreds of servers. It's used to teach hundreds of students annually, host dozens of projects, as well as continuous integration and deployment for a few open source projects. The Mass Open Cloud, or MOC as we usually call it, exists thanks to the work of this community. And yet, I didn't have anywhere near this much white hair until I tried to manage a team operating an open source cloud. It's hard. Why is that? Well, it's because every open source cloud is different. Each is built on different hardware configurations, unique installation steps, different services, and there's no common set of monitoring and billing capabilities integrated into all the services. It's all unique to each cloud. This means there's no way to encapsulate best practices into the configuration, no easy way to compare information between clouds, and each of us solves the problems we encounter in a different way, largely by ourselves. Moreover, there's no visibility by the open source developers of the software into how that software is actually deployed, operated, or used, which means that the community may be working on problems that the operators just don't care about. And it's really hard for the developers of the software to reproduce or debug it. And this probably helps explain why some of you have white hair too. If you look at the public clouds, they are prescriptive. They have one way of solving everything. They have real visibility into what users are doing, and they can evaluate their software with real usage and then evolve things dynamically using continuous integration and deployment. We believe that if open source clouds are going to be successful in the long run, the open source community needs its own cloud. In 2018, we reached out to the OpenStack Foundation to explore our idea, and we thought we were going to piss them off. But Mark and Jonathan said, yes, finally. And together we launched OpenInfra Labs. We got together in real life to talk and plan. We had concrete goals and great clarity on our MVP. And I'm not kidding here. This is a card we wrote that day. It's really hard to argue with avoid doom as an MVP. Our goal is to create a federated large-scale cloud, starting with academia. The plan is starting with the MOC to create highly prescriptive cloud-in-a-box solutions first deployed at the MOC that can be replicated at multiple academic institutions and then federated into a large-scale cloud.
All right, well, that was great, learning more about OpenInfra Labs from Michael. And, for me, I couldn't get into MIT.
That's hard to believe.
I know, isn't it? I don't know what they were thinking. But listen, gives me some connection back to those smart people in Boston. But you know what? You want to stick around for the winner to be revealed very soon for the Superuser Awards.
And you definitely want to stick around for this next segment. We are going to have Boris Renksi from FreedomFi, who promises a very informational, educational, and entertaining look at building a private LTE network. So, Boris.
Hey everyone, Boris from FreedomFi here. 7 years ago, I presented at OpenStack Summit how to deploy an OpenStack cluster with Puppet manifests for Goat.
How to stand up an HA OpenStack cloud with Open Puppet manifests in under 20 minutes for Goat.
So today we're going to take it to the next level. I'm going to show you how to build your own private LTE network using open source software and commodity hardware. Also for Goat. Let's get started. Building LTE networks is no task for nerds like deploying Kubernetes. It requires some equipment and it requires resourcefulness. The first thing that you will need to build an LTE network is some spectrum. If you wanted to get some spectrum from the government 10 years ago, it would look something like this. Hello, I would like to buy some spectrum.
Hello, my friend. You come to the right place. What is your budget?
Looks like my budget is $231.37 and also 500 rubles.
The cost of the spectrum is $100 billion.
Luckily today, the spectrum is becoming much more accessible. In the USA, there is a number of companies that have been authorized by the government to make 5G ready spectrum available for private use in an on-demand fashion through a program called Citizens Broadband Radio Service, also known as CBRS. Another thing that you need to build an LTE network is a radio. If you were to go and try get a radio 10 years ago, it would look something like this. Hello, I would like to buy some radios for my private LTE network.
You've come to the right place, my friend. What is your budget? $100 billion? That is the right answer.
So we normally sell our radios to large telecom operators and we have great selection. We have baseband units for different use cases and remote radio heads with different models. You have to interconnect those using our proprietary interfaces and specialized cables, of course. To make them work, you will also need to buy specialized network management software from us. We have a great licensing model. Other licensing models are likely disasters.
So, unlike the macro cells, the sales process for which you have just witnessed, today there is an emerging market of compact LTE radios called small cells. Small cells, like this guy right here, you can actually go and buy on the internet for not that much money. Now that we have our radio, our antenna, and our spectrum, the next thing to get is a piece of software called the network core. If you wanted to get a network core 10 years ago, but we've learned our lesson and we're not going back to this guy. Today, there are many open source packet core that you can download on the internet. The best open source packet core that we like at FreedomFi is called Magma. Magma is available to download for free at magmacore.org. Now that we have all the components together and we know how to build network, it is time to teach the goat how to build the LTE network. For this tutorial, we may need to go through the steps a little fast, but do not worry. Joe is going to be documenting his experience of teaching the goat, and he posting the blog on the website of FreedomFi for you to read and follow step by step. Let's get started.
Whoa, okay, well, I tell you what, Boris is never boring, and I've now seen it all. I've now seen a goat deploy an LTE network. So, you know, you can learn so many things here at these summits, and especially if Boris is involved.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. And while we're on the topic of networks, our next speakers, they work for AT&T, the world's largest carrier, and Ericsson, who provides the networking equipment for many providers all over the world. And they're going to be talking about the progress towards Airship 2.0. So let's hear from Matt McEwen and Jeff Collins.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt McEwen. And I'm Jeff Collins.
And we're here to tell you what we've been up to in the Airship project. Now, in past summits, we've talked a lot about what Airship can do in production.
We should be able to take a look at this little tracker we built here. So this is the session running through our 5G core, and I've pulled the UUID of the VM that's serving that session, and I'm gonna hard reboot that VM. And what we should happen is we should have that teaming take effect, and we should be able to hold on to Gus. There'll be a slight interruption as a new VM picks up that session and it transitions, but we should be able to keep him. So that's now happened, and let's see. Gus, you still there? Yep, it should be reconnecting. And now what we should see is you'll see in the bottom right, we've lost the VM, and there's Gus, he's back.
Hey guys.
And now we have a new UUID for the VM that's picked up this session.
And today, we're excited to share an update on the progress toward the Airship 2.0 release. Now, the fundamental motivation for Airship 2 is the same as for Airship 1, to integrate best-in-breed open source projects into a platform that transforms declarative YAMLs into ready-to-go open infrastructure, taking care of things like bare metal provisioning, Kubernetes and OpenStack instantiation, security and network policy, and day two lifecycle management. This declarative model ensures predictability and repeatability across sites and across upgrades. The drivers for Airship 2 include the fact that a lot of good things have been happening in the Kubernetes ecosystem, which Airship can now take advantage of as opposed to implementing itself, along with the ability to consistently specify and control deployments across bare metal, public clouds, OpenStack, and other kinds of use cases, the ability to deploy sites faster and with smaller footprints, and many other new features and improvements. We've also created a web-based UI that can be used to introspect a site and to drive deployments and upgrades. Building on Airship's confirmation as a full OSF project late last year, we cut the beta release of Airship 2 in September and are targeting a GA release in first quarter next year. Now, although the mission statement for Airship 2 remains the same, you'll notice that the integrated projects doing the heavy lifting are substantially different, and Jeff's going to dig into that now.
Airship 2.0 uses 10 components to bring up and manage the infrastructure. We start with Airship CTL, which is the one-stop shop client for managing the documents and deployments of the declared infrastructure into multiple target environments. We're using Airship now for deployments of the infra across both private and public clouds. Now, we've had several requests over the years to provide a front-end GUI, and we're happy to announce that we now have that with Airship UI. What Image Builder brings to the table is the ability to just bring your own YAML and let Image Builder do the packaging of the image as either a QCOW or an ISO. Then these are used for generating the bootstrap images for the host machines, which could be a VM-based deployment or bare metal, in which case the ISO would be streamed over Redfish. Now, Airship uses Customize to remove the duplication of the manifests and supplying the site-specific changes required, such as secrets, for example. And then we have KubeADM as one of the most popular pieces for managing and deploying the binaries for config of Kubernetes itself. There's Cluster API as the de facto standard for declaring Kubernetes clusters. Using Cluster API, we're now able to deploy into multiple customer environments from a single Airship CTL binary. For provisioning, Airship uses Metal 3 and Ironic as the cloud-native bootstrap manager to handle the infrastructure resources. We're using Flux Helm Operator for managing all of the Helm CRs, the custom resource definitions. Host config for day two operations based on the declarative YAMLs. And then last, we have Treasure Map. And that's the reusable source for the manifest that gets used as the reference configuration of the target environment. So if you want to make a change to the environment, it's the Treasure Map manifest that gets overridden for the site or operator-specific changes, which we use Customize for. Now, we've made a lot of progress since the beginning. Our work towards the 2.0 release in Q1 next year is well underway, and we'd love to have others join the project, either in the Airship project directly or in the other projects we reuse. Go to our website at airshipit.org to get the latest updates and connect with us on how to help in development, how to use Airship, or anything else.
The next Superuser Awards nominee is the SK Telecom 5GX Cloud Labs.
This is 5GX Cloud Labs from SK Telecom.
Hi, congratulations. 10th anniversary.
Hi, this is 5GX Cloud Labs from SK Telecom. And thank you. You want to say something, right?
Yeah, congratulations on the 10th OpenStack anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally we gathered together. Now let's talk about our open infrastructure innovation, especially about our technology called Taco. Taco is declarative and Kubernetes-based cloud-native infrastructure solutions. It started in 2016 when SKT decided to solve OpenStack problem by putting OpenStack itself on Kubernetes. Luckily, we found partners in OpenStack community, AT&T and others, and worked together and launched OpenStack Camp and Airship project. It was a great experience making what we need together with others in the community, contributing to the community, but on the same time, getting a huge benefit from community. It was a total win-win situation. From 2018 to 2020, we did several product deployment, SKT Private Cloud, Virtual Desktop, and importantly, Taco-based OpenStack for the SKT telco networks. Also in 2020, we put the Pass, Kubernetes-based Pass platform for our IPTV, which has 5.5 million subscriptions. Also, we work together with USA broadcasting company called Sinclair. Actually, we made JV called Cast.Era, and we build cloud for the next generation broadcasting systems. And this is SKB BTP cases. And this is a Sinclair SKT next generation media broadcasting cases. And also, we are open sourcing Taco, sharing our knowledge and experience with local community in Korea and giving them motivation, skills, and friends to participate in global community together. Most of members of team are local organizers of OpenStack, Korea User Group, Kubernetes, Korea User Group, and SAP Korea community. We are reading and supporting local open infrastructure community and being a bridge between global and local community. We are so proud of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats, SKT, on your Superuser nomination. And also thanks, Matt and Jeff, for walking us through the updates that are in progress with Airship 2.0. Faster, a smaller footprint, better UX. It sounds like a lot of great work that's happening there in the Airship community.
Yeah, that was a great segment. And next up, we're going to be hearing about Starling X. And this is a project that's really gotten a lot of traction, and they're making some exciting improvements that Ildiko will be talking about. And one of the companies that really helped kickstart this whole project in the first place was Wind River. And we just talked about yesterday how they're one of the 4 new companies that's the board approved last week to become founding platinum members in the Open Infrastructure Foundation. So it's exciting to see that kind of investment paying off. And one of the things they announced just a few weeks ago was that they have a big new customer running in production for 5G, which is Verizon Wireless, using the Starling X product that Wind River has. So it's pretty awesome to see how things are getting into production. And let's hear more about it from Ildiko.
Thank you. It is very nice to be able to be here with you today, even if only virtually, and give you a short update about the Starling X project. For those of you who may not know the project, it is an open source platform for the edge. And no, I will not give you a definition of edge here because it would surely disagree with me. Every edge is unique and different if you take a close enough look, with a variety of requirements and characteristics. Edge computing represents a technology evolution, and during this phase, a lot of new solutions are being built and a lot of existing components are being enhanced. Edge relies heavily on modular infrastructure. And the key to success is to be able to put all these building blocks together. And this is where open infrastructure comes in to ensure that all the pieces will fit. And Starling X is a great example. It delivers new functionality to fill in some gaps while being built through open collaboration to enhance the open source components upstream that it integrates. The 4.0 release just came out 2 months ago, and it is a fusion between OpenStack, Kubernetes, and other well-known components like Ceph or the Linux kernel. Components that you already know and use are taken to the next level with focus on critical aspects like security or manageability. The Starling X project has come a long way since the project launched 2 years ago. It was confirmed as a top-level open infrastructure project earlier this year, and by today, it powers systems like Verizon's virtualized 5G RAN infrastructure. The platform delivers functionality like high availability and zero-touch management, which are key to fulfill the strict requirements of the telecommunications sector. The platform will be utilized by use cases, for instance, autonomous robotics for manufacturing, which is an emerging area in digitalization, and remote healthcare, which is getting more and more critical. If you're interested in the features, use cases, and more, check out all the sessions at the summit this week. You can search for Starling X on the event schedule to find the many presentations and panels that are featuring the project. And if you're interested in how the platform is being built, then make sure that you attend the project teams gathering next week. Join us on Tuesday and Thursday to meet the contributors, to share your feedback, ask questions, or join the development process. Hope to see you there. And with that, thank you for your attention. Back to you, Jonathan and Mark.
Thank you, Ildiko. That was a great update on Starling X. Before Ildiko spoke, Mark mentioned that a few weeks ago we learned about a new deployment at Verizon for their nationwide virtual radio access network that's based on Starling X and Wind River's product. And when I hear about new deployments like that, that's what makes me so excited about this next decade of open infrastructure. It's just getting started. And we have some of the biggest deployments that we've ever seen using open source that are just now going into production. So there's so much for us all to do together, and I think that that's why there's so much potential in this next decade. So speaking of production use cases, we have Allison Price back with us again, and she is here for the Superuser reveal, right?
I am, and before I share the exciting news about who the winner of the 2020 Superuser Awards are, let's recap those nominees that we've seen over the last 2 days. Please join me in celebrating Adobe, China Mobile, Leboncoin, Line, Stack HPC, SK Telecom, Trendyol Tech, and Workday. What an impressive lineup, and I am just so excited to welcome one of these organizations into the Superuser Awards winner family. Now, before I share the announcement, Jonathan, I think I need a drum roll.
Okay.
So, drum roll, please. SK Telecom, congratulations on winning the 2020 Superuser Awards.
Yay! Congratulations to SK Telecom. That is so exciting. I'm really happy for that team. I know a lot of them, and I don't think we've ever had a winner from Korea before.
We haven't. I'm so excited to see them win.
Yeah, it's great to keep spreading those Superuser Awards around the world.
It is, and while you do the live Q&A with Mark, I'm going to give him his seat back so I can actually go toast to them backstage. So
right,
I'll turn it back over to you, Mark.
All right, so we are about to start our Q&A, and actually we asked a question earlier, which was who was the voice for our pre-roll, kind of like our theater start, and I noticed that in the chat, Sean McGinnis correctly identified our voiceover artist as Tom Fifield. So good job, Sean, and thank you, Tom, for making a kind of an Easter egg appearance back at our event. And we have Mark back here, so we have the opportunity to do some Q&A with with the speakers. We gathered some questions. We had a lot of really great content. We just saw the Superuser.
I know. I was going to say just congratulations again to the SKT team, JSIC and Dr. Lee and everybody there. Just amazing work. And taco. I mean, who doesn't love taco? So I think that helped. But
you and I had a conversation about tacos last week,
Yeah, but we're running out of time, so we're going to have to go to the Q&A. But if you have a question about tacos, put it in the chat, and then we can work it back in. All right, so I think first up, we wanted to throw a question to Volvo. Do you want to get
Yeah, so Johannes and Albin kicked us off this morning with the Volvo case study, and we wanted to see, I guess, two questions. You mentioned that you wanted to get more involved contributing upstream, and I was curious, what are the areas where you think that you might like to contribute in Zuul, like features and directions that you might want to influence? And then I think that I wonder if you could give us a little sneak peek of, I think you're doing a breakout and talking about the evolution of your CI/CD infrastructure, and maybe give us a little peek of what's going to be covered in that session.
That's a lot of questions.
So the first question was how we want to contribute, right?
Yeah.
So anything we need upstream, really. So more Git drivers, more cloud drivers to be able to launch nodes in Nodepool. Things like that, bug fixes, anything really.
More cloud provider drivers in our discussion, and we have, I think, some Windows continual log streamers that we want to contribute, us poor people using Windows. And I think we also mentioned maybe some of the jobs we use. I mean, we have this build avoidance. We loosely talked about being able to contribute that to make kind of a decision. The first thing you run, make a decision on should we run this or not.
Yeah, there is support for this already, which is more static than what we need currently.
Yeah.
So,
and sneak peek, I guess we'll go more into detail about increasing our cloud nodes, and you have been starting to implement Kubernetes for the back end of Zuul.
Great. Well, I think that's one of the things that's awesome about being able to bring together the different users in this week is, the users and the developers work so closely together and often are the same, individuals and companies in these open source communities. So the work that you were talking about for more drivers for different clouds and workloads, I think that's great contributions to get into Zuul that will help a lot of other organizations and really kind of continue to make Zuul more and more valuable.
Yeah, I think someone in the IRC chat from BMW was saying, wow, it looks like the automotive standard is Zuul these days. We got to get more and more automotive companies involved in Zuul. So that's really awesome. We just want to keep seeing that grow. So our next question is for Mohammed from Vexhost. So first of all, Mohammed, congrats on the new data center in Europe. I know everyone's going to be excited to be able to check that out. And the question was really, if folks want to come to the marketplace and go to your booth, can they connect with you there? And do you have anything to share with people that show up?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So actually, no, we do have a virtual booth in the marketplace where you can actually come in, and we have our team actually sitting. So I think there's a button where you can click join now, and you'll be able to connect on a Zoom session where our team is there to talk to you, answer any questions that you have. As well as I had mentioned, if you actually go on our virtual marketplace page, we have kind of an offer there where you can get like a $200 credit to test out our new cloud infrastructure just kind of by joining in. So I encourage anyone who's interested and curious about trying out the new infrastructure to come to our virtual booth.
And I saw in the OpenInfra-Summit IRC channel that some people are already signing up and getting access to this new hardware. It's what's awesome about public clouds.
Yeah.
If you are interested in trying out OpenStack, you can go do it instantly on the different OpenStack public clouds. So the next speaker that we want to talk to for a minute is Kendall Nelson. Kendall and Dawson gave us an overview of some of the work that happened in the OpenStack project and also some of the ways to get involved. Kendall also puts a lot of effort into organizing the Upstream Institute training that we've done. And this is something that we've done in person at a lot of our events. We are doing it later this week online. And Kendall, could you tell us a little bit about what the Upstream Institute training accomplishes and how that's going to work? I think it's on Thursday of this week. So maybe you could just give us a little bit of an insight into that.
Yeah. So normally we run the training as a day and a half before the in-person summits, but obviously since we can't be together, we've had to adapt a little bit. So this week on Thursday for 3 hours and then Friday for 3 hours, we have split it into 2 parts. The Thursday session will focus on the basics of OpenStack in our community, how we're structured, the governance, release cycles, that sort of thing. And then on Friday, we will focus more on getting tooling set up to actually contribute. So that'll be making sure your accounts are all correct and that you have Garrett set up on your machine to be able to push patches and basically all the tooling. The reason why we split it up into these 2 parts also is that as we continue to grow as a foundation, we want to make sure that we can help the other projects with having an open dev focus part. So that's just the tooling. And a lot of our communities outside of just OpenStack use that tooling. So we hope to be a little bit more widely applicable with this evolution.
Great. Well, that is I think it's a very helpful program that you and Ildiko and Jay Bryant and others in the community have, I know I'm forgetting names, but Gergely and others that have invested a lot of time over the years to give people really concrete information and kind of steps into the open source communities and into the process around developing software this way. So thank you to all of the mentors who work on that. And this is, again, we keep saying join, join, join. This is another way to join these communities and learn how to contribute. Another speaker that we had was Chris Apsey. He talked about operational technology, and as I said, that was a term that I hadn't really heard before.
OT.
And at the end of that, Chris, you mentioned that you are hiring and you want to bring some people on board, not just to work kind of inside of the Georgia Cyber Center, but actually to work within some of these upstream communities. So I think we are actually going to be able to post your email address here on the screen, so people can get in contact with you, as well as we'll share a job board link later. But Chris, maybe you can tell us exactly what role you're hiring for, what the right profile is, who would be a perfect candidate and what they would work on. Because we've had thousands of people watching these keynotes over the last couple of days, and I'm determined to get you some good candidates.
Thanks, Jonathan and Mark. So really, there's multiple different roles we have open. So the first 2 are more ops roles. So we have an architect and an engineer position we're hiring for. And those guys are your kind of traditional ops people, but they have to be able to carry custom patches for things right now until we get stuff done upstream, and then keep pace with OpenStack releases and Ceph releases and Salt releases as they come along. There's a little bit of an extra challenge there. On top of that, we have some contract developers we're looking to hire, and those guys are going to be doing the upstream contributions to libvirt, QEMU, OpenStack, whatever Cyborg, whatever we need to get done. So really, there's a wide gambit of things we're trying to work on. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that these traditionally closed systems become more open so everyone can be more secure.
Great. Well, that is, I think that gives us some good pointers. If you're looking for the opportunity to work on some of these projects, for some work that really matters, that's kind of underpinning the real world infrastructure, not just the digital infrastructure. These seem like good opportunities. And I think Chris's jobs are posted at openstack.org/jobs.
That job board is a great resource if you have OpenStack jobs, if you're looking for one or you want to post one. So please post your jobs there and check that out. I mean, it's a great way to connect people so we can all build this open infrastructure together.
Yeah.
All right, so I think next up, we wanted to ask a question of Michael from OpenInfra Labs. So that was a great segment. Earlier, we heard from Michael, and I think you have some other sessions going on throughout the summit. So I was wondering if maybe you want to talk about those and kind of what all you're hoping to accomplish at the summit this week by connecting with other people, Michael.
Sure. So we have a 101 going on basically right after this, so that there's a forum also going on. The thing that we most hope to accomplish is to sort of broaden the community that's working on it. We're very focused initially on academic computing because we made the decision that we have to pick one place first and really get that successful for the cloud in a box model that we want to create. But it's really important to us to reach out to operators and start building those relationships so that we can take the work that they're doing to run their cloud infrastructures and take advantage of it in a way that makes it an open infrastructure that everybody's using for all of their OpenStack and cloud installations.
So we have a lot of time.
Okay, so this is, I think you mentioned that you're looking to grow the collaboration, and this is something that that we're kind of announcing this week. We actually had originally hoped to kick this all off and announce it at the Vancouver PTG and Open Dev in June, which was our
able to get to Vancouver.
Yeah. So with that said, this is I think really the week when we are opening it up and encouraging a lot of people to participate. Like you said, Michael, the first focus is on these academic use cases. But Red Hat, for instance, is very involved in this project and really helping to push some of the projects forward around hardware automation and containerization and these kinds of things. So lots of room for other companies and universities to get involved. As we have been talking with different institutions over the last couple of months as we were getting ready for the summit, we've heard a lot of interest from organizations in Europe and Asia. So I hope that like you said, we will be expanding the group of people that are involved in this and doing a lot of awesome work to add to the efforts of Boston University, Harvard, MIT, Northeastern, and UMass.
It's amazing that it can advance the sort of R&D for open source software and infrastructure, which is amazing for our community. But it's also a cloud that's serving all these departments and these students at all these incredible universities, and I think more universities are getting involved all the time. So it can make an impact in kind of a lot of different parallel paths there.
Yeah.
So I think we have a couple of questions for Boris, who seems to be a bit of the hit of the comedy tour. I think he's on. He's just stopped by our summit to do his latest set with the GOAT. And so first of all, someone in the chat did award you an Academy Award. So is there anyone you want to thank?
Well, whoever awarded me the Academy Award, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So,
I think so. That
we had one other question, maybe a little more serious. So why don't you take?
What could be more serious?
I don't know. I thought he would have he would have a speech, but okay. Why don't you give him another question?
So the question that I actually wanted to ask you about, I think it was really cool to see kind of the overview of how you can build an LTE network, put it on your roof. I know that you've got the freedomfi.com/blog, I think is where the detailed explanation of how to repeat that is. But yesterday, Amar from Facebook Connectivity, he talked about Magma, and he talked about kind of the architecture of it and how it made it possible to build smaller networks at kind of a reasonable cost. And what I thought it might be interesting for you to talk about is what are some of the use cases where you might want kind of like a private LTE network or a smaller LTE network, these use cases that are going to really deliver net new capabilities into the networking space over what we might traditionally think of just as kind of like really big mobile networks.
Yeah, sure. So indeed, due to the fact that LTE and consequently 5G networks offer certain advantages over traditional technologies like Wi-Fi, in terms of reliability, security, and most importantly, range. There's more and more guys that want to deploy a smaller scale of LTE and 5G network today. And if you think about what it takes to do it today, it's kind of like akin to trying to launch a .com company 25 years ago, where the whole industry kind of, it's not simply not designed for the smaller guy or even a medium-sized organization to easily go ahead and then build their own network. So the use cases that we specifically see at FreedomFi kind of fall in 3 buckets today. One bucket is your traditional private LTE, what people refer to as private LTE. So this is, like any medium to large enterprise that is building their own network. And, like a good example is, for example, we work with 2 different utility companies. They sometimes have their power plants in places that have poor coverage, but most importantly, they have a lot of different sensors, a lot of different cameras, a lot of different procedures for emergency situations where people need to get in touch with each other. And for that use case, an LTE or 5G based network is perfect. Second, more and more we're seeing wireless internet service providers. So in rural America even, where simply there is no fiber and you want to have internet connectivity, LTE or consequently 5G is a good option. And historically, those WISPs used Wi-Fi for that, but now more and more LTE is penetrating into that market sector. And the last is perhaps the most interesting one, and this is different companies that historically have been simply a small component to the value chain of a mobile network operator. Like they'll provide backhaul because they had fiber or cable somewhere, or they have satellite connectivity. But now in certain pockets, they want to go at it themselves and launch their own access network. So we have, 2 of the top 10 satellite operators actually, using our software to do exactly that. So that's kind of a summary. And, we're still young and new and we're learning as we go. So.
Yeah, cool. Well, you mentioned young and new and learning. If you've been in the OpenStack and OpenInfra community for a while, you probably know Boris as one of the co-founders of Mirantis, which is a major OpenStack and Kubernetes company. And Boris now has started FreedomFi, which is going after this network space. And it's something that Boris I think is really passionate about and has been talking with us about for months now. And
from the bear to the goat, it's a whole evolution.
Well, but I think the thing that he's got me thinking about is really what we can do with networks that we haven't really considered before. Mm-hmm. And when we think about the evolution of infrastructure and cloud, a lot of times we think about Moore's law and sort of the falling price of compute and what that enables. But I think the one thing that maybe sometimes we don't put enough emphasis on is the falling price of networks. Right. And how he was just mentioning in the use case of a utility plant or some kind of large-scale physical infrastructure operational technology. You have a lot of devices, a lot of sensors, and ideally you're going to be able to have those connected securely through a network that works really well for that. That's been challenging. That's been something that's been out of reach for a lot of organizations. And I think that as networks become simpler, more cost-effective, easier to run at smaller, more specific scales, it's going to unleash a ton of opportunity, a ton of innovation, and I think it's a really exciting space to watch.
Yeah, the network is the computer, is what I just coined. I don't know who might have stolen that from me in the past, but they have a time machine. Find that guy.
Yes. So I think that's it for our Q&A. We really appreciate everyone who joined today. It was great to see all of the interaction in the chat and the discussion happening there. Keep that going throughout the remainder of the week. Again, thank you for your patience with the platform and the hiccups that we had yesterday. I think that it seems like things have been running a lot more smoothly today, and we'll keep a close eye on it and continue to have all of our team on that. And I want to thank the the foundation team, who we've been asking our team and our extended team with our camera crew here, and our F&Tech crew and our Tippet crew, and everyone who is really throwing a big virtual event for the first time with thousands of people in 126 countries.
Yes, thank you to everybody from around the world. I mean,
new challenge, and
it gives us so much opportunity to connect, but it was a big undertaking from a lot of people.
Yeah, so thanks to everyone who's joining the event, and especially thanks to everybody who has put a lot of effort into making it happen. Feel free to throw some GIFs in the chat for F&Tech and crew. I think that is it from us, or for us here in our little office.
Yeah, we've got. We've been here live from the office, as you said, and I think you're going to have a few minutes here between before the next sessions start. So if you wanted to go to the marketplace, you can go and go to those different booths, hit on the video chat, connect with some other stackers, some other OpenInfra community members, and talk and just connect. You have a few minutes again before the next sessions. And we also just want to say, finally, let's have a good time with OpenInfra.